Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hey, listen, thank you for joining us on this Saturday morning, taking an hour here this Saturday morning to learn from the best trainers and the fastest growing team in all of Ambit, okay? So my name is Dennis Brown. I'm an executive consultant, and I've been very blessed to be involved with this business for the last few years. And, the people that I'm about to introduce you to, I didn't know before this business, but I've come to know them and love them. They're good friends. They're great mentors. And they're just ripping this business up. They went from startup, we went from zero to over $1 million in just 3.5 years. And those are just a few of the accolades. Let me share with you some of the things that they've been able to accomplish in Ambit in just the first 4 years of being in business, okay? Kim and Jim Mason are top 10 money earners. A matter of fact, they're the number 9 income earner in the entire company. They've won the Co-Founders Impact Award. That's chosen by the founders on who had the biggest impact on Ambit during that year. That's huge. Pacesetters Award. They've won the Crystal Sphere Award, the Pure Energy Award, the Top Presenters Award. That's why I'm glad you're on this, because they're great trainers, great presenters. They've won like 5 or 6 or 7 5-star trips, which are like once-in-a-lifetime vacations for most people, but they've been on 5 or 6 of those all around the country and the world. They've won the Ambitarian Award, the Power Surge Award, and the list just goes on, guys. These guys know how to build a successful Ambit business. And, they are very excited about what's going on with this promo. I mean, a lot of people are coming into the business. We didn't want to wait any more time to get some training in front of you guys. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the number 9 income earners in all of Ambit Energy, my friends, Kim and Jim Mason. So I'm going to get you over here in 1 second. Kim and Jim, you there?
We are, Dennis. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for doing this for us. I know that all the new consultants are really going to get a lot out of it. They're going to appreciate it, and I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Well, good morning, everybody. We are so thrilled to have you joining us this morning. And like Dennis said, a lot of people have joined this business in the last week. So what we really want to do today is just kind of go over how to set your business in motion so that it duplicates. And you come on board and you're really excited, and a lot of times you want to just create a whole new system and try to do it your way. And what we want to tell you is if you kind of stick to the system that's in place, you're going to find tremendous success here with this business. So we're going to go over the steps to creating a duplicatable business, one that will set in motion something so that eventually you can buy your life back and you have both time freedom and money freedom. Just remember, everything you do from that first hello, from when you pick up the phone and start your first invitation, is what's going to duplicate down through your entire organization.
It's a pleasure to be on this, and again, like Kim said, this is just an effort to get this information out there so that each and every one of you have an opportunity to start your business properly, because we tend to get in these little grooves, and then we get really good at doing the wrong things. And the whole premise of this business is that it's a simple business, and it can duplicate very, very quickly if you do the right things over and over. So we're just going to get right to work here, and hopefully this will be able to be posted so you can revisit this. And one thing that Kim touched on, this isn't about coming in and trying to invent a system or develop an idea that you think. Everybody comes into the business and they all have a different background, and everybody's got ideas about the best way to do this. And quite frankly, for the most part, they don't work. And Ambit has developed a system that over the 7 years that it has been in business has streamlined it so that each and every one of us can just plug into it. The learning curve is done if you just do these real simple steps. So we're going to jump right into this right now.
One of the things, as you're beginning to kind of realize what you've got your hands on, think of it as if you just had bought a gym membership, and maybe your gym membership cost $500, and it's a great idea, and you know that you can get results from that gym membership. But if you never go to the gym and you never lift a weight or you never jump on the treadmill, then you're not going to see the results. That's the same thing here in this business. It's like you've got a gym membership, but you have to put some activity in here. So our goal today is to hope that we can get this all laid out for you clearly so that you know exactly what it is you need to do. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm just going to switch over to the PowerPoint so you can watch as we talk through the Jumpstart training. And just so you know, this Jumpstart training that we're going to share with you today, if you go into your Power Zone, which is your back office, go to Ambit University, and then go to training materials and reference materials, you will be able to see it there. So you can go back and reference it again.
This Jumpstart training is also available on a weekly and bi-weekly basis at a lot of the different business presentations that are available throughout our market. So it's just a matter of getting on the schedule, knowing what's available, and plugging into that system, and going a little bit early so that you have this information.
So there really are 7 steps that we follow, and it's kind of just like McDonald's. If you started a McDonald's franchise, you make the hamburger the same way. You put the pickle on the same spot, you put the mustard on the same spot, and if you don't do it, you're not working there anymore. And that's kind of how our program works. So we're going to go over today your why, the list, the brief invitation, the presentation, validation 3-way call, and how to help your new consultants get started right. So we want to start first with determining your why. And there really are 2 aspects to this. One, you yourself need to know why you're doing this business. And then 2, as you begin to sponsor people, you as the sponsoring consultant need to take some time to try to determine why the new person that joined your team is doing their business. And when we all start this business, when we ask a new person, or when we even ask ourselves why we're doing it, typically it starts out more with a monetary type association. We want to get a new car, we want to pay off our debt. Everybody wants to build savings. Some people are pretty philanthropic and want to contribute to charity. But what you really want to do is dig deeper and find out what that real why is. Your why needs to be something that you're really passionate about. It needs to be something that they always say you want to have a why that makes you cry. The reason that you need to have a why is because as you start this business, many, many times as you go out and you approach somebody who you think is going to be a rock star, they're going to try to derail you. They're going to try to come on board and tell you that this won't work. They're coming at you from a place with a lack of knowledge. You're now entering this as someone who's kind of worked your way through and realized that Ambit really is a real business here. And if your why is not strong enough, if the reason you're doing this doesn't really dig deep into your heart, when they tell you it's a pyramid scheme or we're all going to go to jail, you may get weak and step back and not really want to pursue this. But if you know that this is a vehicle that can get you to your why, then that's not going to be an issue for you here.
So we want to talk a little bit more about the why, and I do want to take it to a little deeper level. A lot of people have a vision board, and this is real important for the materialistic things that we're going to do with our lives and things that are important. But I will tell you, as you get started and you're sitting down with people, and even as you're looking at your own motivational reasons for being involved in a secondary income stream, a different business idea, a lot of times when you're sitting down or even looking at your own thought process, it takes a while to clarify what's important or the reasons that will move you. And this whole science around this is called behavioral economics. It's why people make decisions, and it's a real important, deeper aspect to the business. In other words, when you're sitting down with somebody and you ask them, why would you want to do something like this? The reason they tell you quite often is very superficial, and it's not necessarily that they're out of touch with their emotional why, the deepest parts of who they are. A lot of times they don't want to address it because for the most part, people are in denial of that deep part of their emotion because they come to believe that maybe it's not achievable. So as you're out there in those conversations, being able to connect with people is a skill that you can develop. A lot of people call it charisma, and salespeople maybe have a natural talent for this. What I want to encourage everybody to do is become a people person. Learn how to interact with people so that you can have these conversations with them and get in touch with that. And I love it when I talk to people and you're sitting down with them and you can finally get past those barriers and get to know them a little bit, and when they're honest with you and them, and they tell you the real reasons they do this. We had a little conversation with a fellow last night, and in that conversation, you could tell, it was just, I need to make more money. But when you ask that secondary question, why do you need to make more money? And it's because I've been going to college for a long time, and I really need to get this part of my life done, and I need to have it paid for so that I can be financially more stable as I move forward into my life. That's a little different than I need to make money.
When you're working with your new consultants, you need to dig a little deeper and find their why. For yourself, it really would be a good idea if you write down why you're doing this business and you make this vision board that you see in front of you here. And your vision board, like Jim said, may start out with new kitchen appliances or new clothes or a new walk-in closet, whatever it is that's, motivating you. And just know that as you build this business, your why will begin to shift and change. So you need to keep altering and adjusting your vision board. When Jim and I got started, we put our why right in front of us, and then I remember it was hilarious because Jim went through the house and he put it on little index cards. So whenever we brushed our teeth, there was one stuck on the vanity mirror. In the bedroom, there was one there. In the kitchen, there was another one there. It kept it in our vision. It kept it in our awareness. What you think about, what you put your mind on and set into motion is what's going to happen here. When we're working with new consultants and we try to determine their whys, a lot of times when I enter them into my phone, it will have their name, and then in parentheses behind it, I'll put their why. If you learn why your new consultants are doing this business, if they get to a point where you find that they're maybe not coming to the weekly business presentations as much, or they're not answering or returning your text as quickly as they used to, that's a good clue that something's happened in their life that's making them maybe step back. But if you know why they started to do this business, you can call them up and say, I remember you said that you were going to get your son's college education fund paid for, and that your goal was to be at every single football game that he played in his college career. And if you have found another reason or another way to make this happen, that's awesome. But if not, let's reach back and get this Ambit business rolling, because this is the vehicle that can help you get there. And like I said, it's really important that you know why the new consultant's doing it. We were working with a pastor the other day, and the typical why would be, to help the congregation and maybe do a building fund or whatever it is that would motivate him in his pastoral walk in life. But as we dug a little bit deeper, we found out that he had 4 children, and the college fund that he had set up was basically non-existent. And that really weighed heavy on his heart. So we know that aside from his goals as a pastor, he also has some really strong family reasons. So that's what we mean by determining your why. Write it down and have goals associated with it.
He also indicated in that conversation that as he'd gotten older, he was working a construction job outside of being a pastor, and he was starting to feel, the aches and pains that normally come with that sort of physical labor. With that sort of thing in mind, you can understand why he would be a lot more motivated. I will tell you that your why will change over time, and you may get more and more in touch with it. We had a little brief conversation about 6 months ago with some folks from Mike and Ellie Tornator's group, and they were trying to look for the reason that we had success in the business and why it had worked so fast, and why we had tried so hard. And they were looking for a book, the reason, so if they could just read that book, that would help them. And what I realized in that moment was it wasn't necessarily the books that had motivated or inspired me. They were the reason. But the real question in all of that, again, was deeper. Why had I read all those books? And it's, again, getting in touch with. What I realized at the deepest level, my why was at 50 years old, I wasn't measuring up anymore. We were falling behind every single year, and in spite of a 6-figure income, we still couldn't keep up. With 2 kids in college and a 3rd one getting ready, we needed more money, and Kim and I were getting ready to go in 2 separate directions as far as jobs were concerned. So, again, when you're asking people for the why, get a little bit deeper. It's very, very important.
So step 1 is the why. Step 2 now is creating your contact list. And this is a step that a lot of people kind of neglect. They think their list is in their cell phone. They think their list is on all the rosters they have from all the organizations they belong to. What we really want you to do is create a written contact list. This list, guys, is your inventory. And as you work with a new consultant, if they have a list of 100 names or 200 names, you're in business, because they can go through that list and get this presentation in front of all of them. If their list is only 4 names and the first 2 tell them no, they're not even going to want to talk to the next 2, because then they think they're out of business. So when you start with a new consultant, sit down with them and help them create this list. Many, many times we've heard people say, I really don't know anybody. If that's the case, what we like to do, and you can try it, it works like a charm, just take out a piece of paper and draw a big X on it or a cross on it, so you've got 4 quadrants, and just say, we're going to just play a little game here, and I'm going to time you, and we're going to give you 1 minute per square, per quadrant here. And then you can see the memory jogger right in front of you here. So in that first quadrant, what I want you to do, I'm going to time you for 1 minute, write down all your friends and family, and then just say, go. And let them work, through that 1 minute countdown. And you'll be amazed when there's a timer there, how quickly they start jotting down all their friends and all their family. Say, now in the next square, we're going to go with everybody you work with. Who do you know in your work life? Who are your bosses? Who are your coworkers? Who's the janitorial staff? Ready? Go. And give them 1 minute. And then go to the next quadrant, and you can do business owners who's in their community, and maybe then the 4th quadrant can be if they're in a bowling league, or they're in a community band, or whatever it is about them. We're going to go through everybody in those organizations, the soccer parents that go. And if you do that for 4 minutes, typically a new person can get about 40 names on their list. And that's a good way to help them realize they really do know more people. And the main thing with this contact list is teach the new person never to prejudge. You do not want to make a customer list and a consultant list. We did that when we got started, and I'll tell you, that's not a good thing to do. We marched over to one of our neighbors who has always teased us because our house has a municipal grid with really cheap power. And he said our house was lit up like a light bulb, and he was over there scrimping, basically using candles, because he had a high rate with his incumbent. So I immediately thought, this will be a great customer. And I ran over to try to gather him as a customer, doing everything wrong. And in that process, he was smart enough to say, is there a way to make money with this? And it kind of took me back a little bit, but it made me realize everybody needs to see the business first. He ended up being one of our first consultants. So we got lucky there. If we could take everybody's first list of people that they gathered as customers and go back through them and show them the business, I bet we'd end up with twice as many consultants in our business than we have now. So remember, don't prejudge. Put everybody on this list, and everybody gets a chance first to take a look at the business. And then they can decide whether or not they want to be a consultant, or they want to be a customer that's working for free energy, or they just want to be a customer that's saving money. You can use the memory joggers that are in your power zone to make yourself get a really big list, or to help your new consultants get a list. And what Jim and I did is we kind of went through the phone book. Now, we weren't randomly pulling people out of the phone book, but we went through and we said, who do we know that begins with an A? And we went down, and that jogged our memory. And we did that as we went through the white pages and the yellow pages. And I think our original list was probably over 200 names. Now, what does it mean when we say prioritize your list? Once you've got your list made, you want to go through your own list, and you want to help your consultants go through their list so that they look for the people on that list that, one, maybe have the resources. They have time, they have money. Maybe 2, they live in an area where there's a lot of people. But I don't necessarily think that that's a definite deterrent if you live in a real small rural area, because Jim and I built this business from a small little village in western New York that has about 3,000 people in the whole township. So don't let the lack of being near a city deter you from putting someone on that list. Put people down who are entrepreneurial, people who are always thinking outside the box. That's a perfect person to reach out to, or maybe someone who's a business owner. So you want to go down through that list and kind of star them. There's a little acronym called ERIC to help you do that. E is if they're entrepreneurial. R is do they have the resources? In other words, do they have time and do they have the money to get this business started, so that you don't have to worry about people saying, I can't afford to do this business. I is their influence. What is their sphere of influence? Do they know a lot of people? Are they well known in the community? And then C is that that center. Are they near a city? And like I said, that to me is not the highest priority, because we built this business now over the internet. We've got people who've reached executive consultant building it from Israel. We have consultants that have joined us from Missouri and Arizona and North Carolina, states that we're not even licensed in yet. Jim, can you talk a minute about that list of Philip Eckert's and how important that list is?
We're obviously talking about the list, which is the raw material of the business. And Philip Eckert, very early in the business, stressed the importance of it. And he had some great examples. He said most of the people don't realize the value in that list. In any given list with 100 names on it, there are people that will build your business or lead you to people that will create literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what he talked about was, he showed us his original list from back in Excel. And on that list, he had about 13 people that had become successful, or led to people that had become successful off of that list. If he only had 2 or 3 names on it, he'd have never got to the people on that list that built the business that led to over $5 million in Excel for him. Now, how that all played out was, he started making phone calls, and he made a half a dozen calls, made a dozen calls, and he hadn't really connected with anybody that was interested in building the business. He got to number 11, he got to number 12, got to number 13, and number 13 actually did something. In other words, they kept Philip in the game long enough to get to number 15, number 18, who also did something, or maybe led to somebody who did something. So the value of your list, as those people begin to lead to other people, is powerful. But more importantly, your list is a very, very dynamic, growing document. And what we always say is, if you can get through that closest sphere of influence and then begin to meet the rest of the world, you're, number one, never out of business. And number two, it's not necessary that the closest people to you build the business. It's just, who do they know that you don't know? So it's a very dynamic, growing document, and we're going to talk about some books in a few minutes here that will help open the doors to a never-ending, growing, dynamic list.
Make sure always that you keep pen and paper in your car, because as you're driving around the community, you're going to remember people that you had forgotten to put on the list, and keep them by your bedside too, because a lot of times you wake up in the middle of the night and you think of somebody, and if you don't write it down, you will forget it in the morning. And this is something that, as you move through your business, you are constantly adding to it. In other words, we are still every day adding people to our list. Remember, everybody you know now, at one time in your life you didn't know them. And as you go through your journey here with Ambit, you're going to continue to meet more people. So really, there are 2 fundamentals in this business of these 7 steps. Your list is your first fundamental, and then the invitation is the second fundamental. We're going to spend a little bit of time here on this invitation, because really, you need to become a master inviter. You never really have to learn how to become a master presenter. We're going to go over ways to present this business in a minute. But becoming a master inviter is what this is all about. If you never invite anybody to take a look at this business, even if your list is 10,000 long, but you don't invite anybody to look at it, you're out of business. So I want you to take this invitation, and I want you to get one concept wrapped around it, and that is, you are only inviting them to take a look. You are not inviting them to join. And as you build this, you'll begin to realize it doesn't matter what the outcome is, as long as people actually take a look at this business. I want you to practice your invitations at home. The key to success is just to continue to practice it so it becomes your own. In other words, when we were honing in on our invitation, I practiced it to the dog, I practiced it to the cat, I practiced it to the wall, the chair, anybody, anything that I could verbalize it, so it began to be me. It had to sound like something that would come from me. It has to sound like something that comes from you. Keep it short. The less you say, the more you're going to make. In other words, that invitation really should be less than a minute. If you're inviting people and you're doing this and you're not getting results, say you've done 10, 15, 20 invitations and nobody is taking a look, we want you to stop. Stop what you're doing. We don't want you to practice doing the wrong thing so you get really good at it. We want you to practice doing the right thing. That's how you're going to get results. So stop if you're not getting people to take a look, and call your SC, your sponsor, your SC, your EC, your NC, somebody who's having success in this business. tell them what you're doing, and maybe they can see what you're saying that's wrong. But remember, above and beyond all, you're inviting them to look. Now, I want to talk about something that everybody as a new consultant typically does. One is we kind of like slide in the back door with our invitations. In other words, we invite people over for dinner. We have we start to talk to them. We know everything that's going on in their lives. And then halfway through dinner or when dinner's done, we say, oh, by the way, we want to show you this business that we've just gotten started. That is not the way to do it, because that just negates everything that happened before. The person really doesn't think you care about them. They feel like the only reason you invited them over was so you could show them their business. Same for a phone conversation. If you haven't talked to anybody in a while, don't call them up on the phone and pretend like you care about them and go through everything and then say, oh, by the way, I've got something I want to run by you. Can I show you my new business? That doesn't work. When you call someone up on the phone or when you invite them over to dinner and you want to show them the business, make sure you let them know that. In other words, if I was going to invite you over to show you the business, I would let you know that I have a business idea I want to run by you. I'd really value your opinion, and I'd love to do it over dinner. How about we grab dinner and catch up on things on Friday, and then I'll show you this business. Now they know that in the process of that dinner, the goal also is to show them the business. Same for a phone conversation. If you haven't talked to somebody in a while, when you pick up the phone and you call them to invite them to take a look at this business, make sure you let them know the reason I'm calling you is, and then we're going to go over the ways to give the verbiage for an invitation here in a minute. And then we'd love to catch up because we haven't talked for a while. That is really, really important. The other thing that as a don't when you're doing an invitation, don't start an invitation out with, who's your electricity provider? Or I can help you save money on your gas or your electric bill. We never start the invitation with the customer part of this business. We always start the invitation with the consultant side, with the way to make money here. If you start with the customer side, remember everything you do is going to be duplicated. So they're going to go out and start with the customer side. And that's a failed proposition. That if you start with the customer side, you end up getting into a cost-benefit analysis, and that's not the way you want it to go. People join us as customers, one, because they can save money, and two, because, they're doing us a favor. They want to support us. If you go to the website, and you might want to write this down, topambitleaders.com. So that's topambitleaders.com. And you go on that website, there are a ton of training videos and audios there. And there's one called Gathering Customers. And I want you to listen to that because it goes through and shows you the way that we do our invitation so that we don't come across as just somebody who's out gathering customers. And guys, if you get this business, if you really get it from your head to your heart, that excitement and that enthusiasm is going to just come right out of you. And people are going to want to sit down and take a look at this amazing business.
I want to talk a little bit about a couple different aspects of the invite, and this is really important that you understand, number one, what you're trying to achieve, but number two, the thought process behind it. In other words, as your levels of understanding, you'll just feel a lot better about what you're doing. I'm going to talk briefly about the thought process behind what you're doing. I'm going to talk about the rote mechanical part of what you're doing, in other words, the scripts, and then I want to talk a little bit about the psychology. Up on the screen there, you'll see the brief invitation. If you use this script to your closest friends and family, they're going to realize it's a script. In other words, if I called up my brother, my father, my mother, and I said, do you keep your options open to earning income in addition to what you're doing outside of your current occupation? They're going to look at me like the aliens got me. And quite frankly, they know that I'm up to something, and quite frankly, they'll be suspicious. They're going to be backing up already. So what you're trying to do is have an idea of what you're going to say, but it needs to be internalized. It needs to be who you are. And it took me about 20 names before I realized that that wasn't how to do it. And, I documented everything. I spent too much time on the phone with all of them. I tried to convince them over the phone. And what I did is I talked them into Ambit and I talked them out of Ambit. And it happened literally word by word. Every single word I said contained a thought process that took their mind somewhere. So what I want to encourage everybody to do is, number one, on your closest friends and family, realize you're just practicing and have a little bit of fun with it. And you could literally call somebody up, and one of the scripts would be, listen, I have to practice a presentation. It's nothing you'd be interested in, but I need to get better at it so that when I do share it with other people, I'm a little more fluid with it. And that can be a real good opening for getting it in front of some people. If you go in your back office under business tools, they have scripts for close friends, associates, friends and family, coworkers, business associates, and then so on and so on. Again, when I got started, they felt like a script, and I just couldn't use them. But more importantly, I did even worse. I went out and started making stuff up. And even if you could talk people into the business, the next group of people can't, and it doesn't duplicate. So some of the scripts that we would encourage you to use are just be yourself. And one of the best one, and the shortest, is you call up somebody that you want to work with, or that perhaps you're interested in getting this in front of to practice, and you just say, hey, listen, Bob, are you home? I'm coming over. I got something I need to show you. And think about how that feels. That's just a normal process. We'd call somebody up, check to see if they're around, and if they're not home, you'd go into scheduling a time. And really, they're going to ask you what's up in that process. And again, remember, all you're doing is calling to schedule. I want to talk a little bit about this as you begin to understand these scripts. The only reason you ever talk to anybody about Ambit is to schedule an appointment. In other words, it isn't calling them up to save them money on their electric or talk to them about an opportunity or they'd be good at something that you just started. None of that dialogue. Remember this. This is very important. The only reason you ever call anybody or talk to anybody about Ambit is not to talk about Ambit. It's to schedule an appointment to look at a business idea. And it sounds like we're splitting hairs over subtleties there, but nobody ever got into Ambit that was successful that talked about it to a bunch of people. It doesn't work like that. So in the initial stages, you're going to get some dialogue that is a bit scripted, but as you internalize it, it'll become who you are. And for me, I work in geographic areas a lot of times. I'm in a position to expand the number of different businesses down here. I'm looking for somebody to work with. It may not be anything you're interested in, but you might know someone. Or I sold my landscaping business a couple of years ago. I had my radar up. I was looking at some different ideas. I need to run something by you and get your opinion. Those are kind of the dialogue that I came to. But universally, as I failed miserably when I started, I beat myself up. Don't do that. And universally, what I learned was I was saying too much.
When you're starting these invitations, you're first going to have the group of people who you would consider your closest sphere of influence. This is all of your family, your friend that would come out in the middle of the night if you had a flat tire and would come in and rescue you. For those people, just be yourself. Put a pot of coffee on. I got something I want to show you. Hey, I found something that's really neat. I can't wait to show you. Go over, and we'll go over how to present the business here in just a minute. But just go on over and do like you always would do. The next sphere of influence is basically everybody you know. This is all those people that we just put on your list. These are the people that are in your community, your soccer kids' parents, the coaches, the people at your church, people in your bowling league, your dentist, your optometrist, where you get your clothes cleaned. Everybody that is in your world is this next sphere of influence. When you are inviting your next sphere of influence, you want to first, when you call them up, let them know why you're calling. You're going to want to pay them a compliment, and then you're going to invite them to take a look. So it might sound something like, hey, Dennis, this is Kim. I know we haven't visited in a while, but the reason I'm calling you is I want to run a business idea by you. I really value your opinion. I have watched you build 3 businesses throughout your career. You're extremely entrepreneurial, and I really, really respect that. Now, this next thing I'm going to say, guys, is kind of really important. I'm going to take all the pressure off of Dennis here. And I'm going to say, I know this might be something you're not interested in. I get that. But you would be doing me a big favor if you would take a look at this business. You might know somebody I should be talking to. How about Sunday at 3 or Saturday at 10? Which works best? What I did there is I just segued into 2 options for Dennis. I didn't leave it open to, can we do it? And then play that game back and forth. No, that doesn't work. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. If you do that, you're probably not going to set that appointment to get this business in front of them. But remember, you're going to call them up. You're going to tell them why you're calling. You want to run a business idea by them. You value their opinion. You're going to pay them a compliment, whatever it is that you know about them. Pay them the compliment. You're going to basically take all the pressure off by telling them it's probably nothing they'd be interested in. You get that. And then you're going to remind them they'd be doing you a favor, and you really would like to show them this business and give them a couple options for when you would like to get together with them. Another good invitation a lot of people use, I've heard Jason Morrell say this before. He said, I've got a project I'm working on you might be interested in, or I've got some numbers I want to run by you. These are all good invitations. If you notice, none of these invitations have anything to do with, hey, I've got a way to help you save money on your gas or your electric bill. In fact, you can almost get it for free. And when you give an invitation, invariably, they're going to say, what is it? That is just the typical response to what is it. So what I want you to understand here is the less you say, the more you're going to make. When someone says, what is it? Don't go into the presentation. Don't confuse that invitation with the presentation. What is it doesn't mean, well, it's this Ambit Energy company. They're out of Dallas, Texas. You guys should hear about them. They're amazing. Oh, it costs $4.29 to get your business started. They're the Slurpee guys, you know, the people who did the 7-Eleven. And there's $4.29, $3.29, $4.69, and just start talking about residual income. If you do that, they're going to be moving back away from you faster than you can say Ambit Energy. I mean, they're going to be gone. Your goal, like Jim said, is just to invite them to take a look at a business idea. Jim's going to talk a little bit now about the thought process about this and the psychology of an invitation.
I will say, as we wrap up that part of it, those are the dialogue that you're going to use. If you're getting a predictable response, it's because you're giving them something that elicits that response. In other words, if you're hearing, is this one of those pyramid deals? They got it from something you said or the way you said it. So I want you to make sure that if it's very predictable, I used to say I'm in a position to expand some business ideas with a company out of Dallas, and they'd always ask me what the company was. And as soon as they heard Ambit, they'd either heard about it or they looked it up on, and they made decisions without real information. So I took that part of my dialogue out, and it completely eliminated it. I'm in position to expand a number of business ideas, spread it out where I could gather them as a customer, I can gather them as a customer who gets free energy, or I could gather them as a business partner. A number of different business ideas depending on what their interests were. So I want to talk a little bit about the thought process behind what you're trying to achieve, and it'll take a lot of the pressure off. Again, you're calling to schedule an appointment, but the real overarching thought process is here, you're staffing a store. And that's the best example of what I say when we're going through this list of names. That could be, if you were staffing a store, a stack of resumes. And let's just say hypothetically that you purchased a Tim Hortons. You'd spent $400,000 instead of what we have now, open enrollment or $429. I want you to think about it. If you spent $429,000 for a Tim Hortons and the 5 people you talked to first didn't want to work with you because they weren't interested in what their perception of cleaning the toilets were at Tim Hortons, or much less being a customer at Tim Hortons, it doesn't mean Tim Hortons doesn't work or Tim Hortons won't work for you. It just means you haven't surrounded yourself with the people that are going to help you be successful in your Tim Hortons. So you're going through a list of resumes. Not everybody qualifies. And I will say, to take it a step further, if you only had 10 openings in your business, would you be talking to the person across from you anyways? And I want you to think about that. That speaks to sponsoring up. In other words, 10 people that are going to take up your time and limit you getting to the people who will build it means that you better choose wisely. They may not qualify for your time. If you were hiring the professionals to run your Tim Hortons or to run 10 of your Tim Hortons, would you be talking to that person in the first place? And I will say, when you sit down with someone and you're talking to them, have that in the back of your mind. In other words, the psychology is who's in control of your business. So you're staffing a store, you're going through a list of resumes, not everybody qualifies, and you want to pick wisely who you're going to work with. And you're going to ultimately let them choose themselves. So now I want to talk a little bit about the psychology behind what you're attempting to do here. And the psychology is what I alluded to a little bit there. Who's in control of your business? As you're going through that and somebody's jerking you around, whether it's in the invite, what do you got, Jim? If you don't tell me what you've got, I'm not going to talk to you, or I'm not going to schedule an appointment. You can tell me over the phone. listen, Bob, like I said, I'm in a bit of a rush. I've got 2 other people I need to talk to, but I thought of you first. I got to go. This probably isn't going to work for us right now. And get off the phone. If somebody's jerking you around and making you feel that you're in less of a business, cut the cord and save yourself first. So the psychology is you're in control, and people will move for fear of loss far more quickly than they will for a strong why for themselves. In other words, if you're right up front, listen, I've got 2 appointment times this week, and I'm going to fill it with somebody, but I thought of you first. That's a sincere compliment, and it's also they've got something to lose. The psychology of this business is huge.
Now, these 3 questions are, again, for when somebody is on the phone and you're trying to schedule that appointment, and they're saying, what is it? What is it? I'm not going to give you any of my time till you tell you what it is. You can do posturing, like Jim just said, well, that's okay. I called you first, but I got 2 other people, and hang up on them. That will make them wake up and say, maybe I should listen to what he has to say. If you feel compelled to tell them what it is, and that's where it's a fine line here between the presentation and the invitation, these 3 questions are kind of a guideline. Now, a lot of times these 3 questions don't feel natural. They didn't feel natural to us when we got started. Just to ask these questions are a bit redundant, and you might even say, if you're going to ask these 3 questions, listen, I'm going to ask you 3 questions that are a bit redundant, but it'll give you a feel for what we've got our hands on. How many people do you know who use electricity and natural gas? Obviously, the answer is everybody. Do you think they'd rather pay less or potentially get it for free? Well, who wouldn't? How'd you like to earn residual income and thousands of dollars by referring people to this program? What we did, if someone pushed us and we felt compelled to give them this information, Brian McClure calls it salting their oats. In other words, you're trying to make them pique their interest so they want to get more information. We rolled these 3 questions into one sentence. If someone pushed me and I felt that I wanted to tell them what it was, I would say, I help people save money on their gas with their electric. Some of them get it for free, and I get paid on it every time they pay their light bill. And then I go right into booking the appointment. That's what I want to talk to you about. Saturday at 10, Sunday at 3. So I help people save money on their gas and electric. Some of them get it for free, and I get paid on it for the rest of my life. Or I get paid on it every time they pay their light bill. Sunday at 10, Saturday at 3. This is what I want to talk to you about. Don't end that statement or these 3 questions open-ended, because what are they going to do? They're going to say, well, tell me about it. How does it work? This is where you want to say, listen, I'm in a little bit of a rush right now. But these are the basic guidelines for an invitation.
I want to talk about a couple things because you're going to get a pretty predictable response, and this is Behavioral Economics 101. In large groups of people, we are predictable to a fault. So some of the predictable responses are everybody thinks their friends are different. They're not. They're your friends, and they'll jerk you around. It'll be harder to work with them than it is somebody you don't know, and you can have a lot more credibility with someone you don't know than your closest friends. So if you live through them, you're going to be fortunate. I will tell you, don't be evasive. When someone says, is this that Ambien thing that I've heard's going around? The response is, yes, it is. What do you know about it? And then listen to them. What else do you know about it? And I like to just mop that up real quick with, that's not what we're doing. Have you met anybody that's successful with it? And I want to show you what we're doing so that if somebody else calls you, you'll know that what you're doing, how the business works. And I like to ask people, have they showed it to you or have they just talked about it? Because there's a huge distinction there. And I like to wrap that up with, the next time somebody calls you, you'll be able to say, I'm involved in it or I'm not interested. Fair enough? And then I go back to scheduling it. And then this is another important thing to remember. I caught this off of a Tony Robbins video, and it was just a little 13 seconds on there, but it was very, very important. It talked about connecting with the people you're going to work with. And it says when 2 people are in a conversation, in other words, when they're communicating and they have rapport, in other words, you're talking to someone who's going to listen to it. You're not just coming in as a salesperson pitching a price and the wall is already up. But when 2 people with rapport communicate, they talk, they're in a conversation, the one with the most conviction, in other words, the one with the most conviction, the confidence, will always persuade the other one. So here's how this pertains to Ambit Energy. Out in the real world, the rest of the world, 100% of the people out there are convinced that network marketing does not work. And they're pretty confident. Otherwise, they'd be calling you when they heard that you were doing it, and they'd be trying to get into your business. They don't realize the potential that it has, and they're not interested. So we come in, we've seen some things, we've learned some things, and we're around people who are already successful, and we're hoping and praying that maybe just this one time it's different and it's going to work for us. And then we go out there and we run into our broke brother-in-law, and he is 100% convinced that it won't work. These are the people that love us and are our mentors and trust us, and the people that should be building us up and saying, man, I hope it works for you. Go, and matter of fact, I'm going to join you. We're going to do this together. But they don't. They haven't seen it, but they're going to convince you that it doesn't work. So be careful when you go out there, and just know where to get your information from. Get it from people who already understand it. Let them help you, coach you, and mentor from people who are inside the business that are already successful.
The reason we spend so much time again on this invitation is this is the one thing you need to practice at home. Practice this invitation so it comes naturally, and know that as you do this more and more, you're going to get better and better at this invitation. As your confidence begins to rise, as your knowledge begins to rise, so will your results here. But you have to put the action in. That's why we spend so much time on this. Now, when you're doing an invitation, what are you inviting them to? This is really, really important. There are many, many ways to present this business, and I'm going to just go down through these briefly here so that you can gear your invitation to what you're inviting them to. The first thing is the local meetings. Many of you are new to Ambit Energy. You may not even have been to a business presentation yet. But if you go into your Power Zone and go to the tab that says Business Presentations, you can go down to where the weekly business presentations are. And they are in almost every one of our states that we're in. And you can just click on the state and click on the cities, and you'll see where it's at and what time it starts. Some of them are in Spanish, some of them are in English. You can determine that right from your Power Zone. A lot of the local meetings aren't even listed in Power Zone yet. They're coming up so quickly, or they are really, really big, so they're not listed there. But if you are getting somebody started in an area and you don't see a business presentation there, just check with your sponsor, and they'll work their way through the line of sponsorship to find out if there might be a business presentation that isn't even listed there in the area. These local meetings are excellent ways to get people to see this business more from a validation standpoint. When you go to a weekly business presentation, you are going to see hundreds of people there who have created success. And when a new person walks into that business presentation, they look around the room and they see people they already know in the community, it truly validates what's going on. Now ask yourself this, at a local business presentation, who is doing the presentation? Is it you? No, it's not you. It's the people who are in the front of the room. So you don't have to know how to do that PowerPoint presentation. You just have to invite someone to come and take a look there. Now, I want to give you a big, strong clue here. People invite people all week long. They get to the weekly meeting, and their guests do not arrive. See, people do not know what they don't know. And sometimes life gets in the way, and that becomes a higher priority for them. So what Jim and I like to do for a weekly business presentation is we like it to be a second look. They've already taken a look at the business with one of the other tools I'm going to go over, and now they have interest. They want to come and see if this is really real. If you're using it as a second look, as a validation tool, your success rate of having people come to that presentation will go through the roof. If you're using it as your first look, and that's not to say that it won't work as a first look, the best way to get your guests to this local meeting is to pick them up and bring them there. Our sponsor took us 3 weeks in a row to different business presentations. Now, they didn't tell us we're going to go to a meeting. They sold the sizzle. They said, we're going to go meet Ray Money. He's the number 4 income earner in the business at that time. He's made $1 million in under 42 months. You got to hear this guy. So we wanted to go. The next week they said, hey, you got to come and meet Chris Atkinson. He's an amazing leader in this company. And we went and we saw Chris Atkinson. They said, hey, you got to come and see Greg Hensel. They just gave us a list of the people, and we went to the meetings to hear the speakers. Nobody wants to go to a meeting in a hotel. So we don't sell it that way. So pick them up, take them out to dinner if you have to, or grab a bite to eat or a drink after the meeting. That's what will move people to come with you there. Another way to get this presentation in front of people is the Success from Home magazine. This magazine is one of the most valuable tools we have in this business. The magazine is chock full of validation stories, people just like them who've gone through the business and found success. You read that magazine and you realize there are a ton of people who've created strong secondary or primary incomes with Ambit Energy. It also talks all about deregulation, what's going on in the country, all the accolades and awards that Ambit's achieved, and there's also a DVD presentation in the middle. We don't typically use that DVD as the first look at the business because there's a lot of people who start that DVD presentation and they just don't get past the opening spot there where it goes over the cost to get a business started. They turn it off and you don't get much luck with that. But as a validation tool, I wouldn't leave home without it. When Jim and I got our business started, the only thing we did is buy a whole bunch of Success from Home magazines and some business cards. And in retrospect, we didn't even need the business cards. But that Success from Home magazine will sponsor people into your business. Just make sure people know that it's not written by Ambit, it's written about Ambit, and it's a great honor to be featured in that magazine. Anytime we've shown the business to someone with a one-on-one presentation, an in-home presentation, or brought them to the local meeting, and they are expressing interest in getting more information, we put a Success from Home magazine in their hands. When you sign someone up as a new consultant, you should be giving them their first Success from Home magazine. This is your investment into your business. A lot of people say, but those magazines are $5. I can't afford them. I want you to think about any other business venture out there. If you were to start a dental practice, you've got to have buildings and chairs and all the tools and equipment. Landscaping business, you can't do it without mowers and weed eaters and blowers. A coffee shop, you've got to have all the equipment. This is our tool. For $5, you can get this in front of people. If it's an issue, make sure you tell them, hey, I only have a few of these. I need to get this back, so you can recycle those magazines. But this is something that we strongly recommend each and every one of you have. Now, what is a one-on-one presentation or an in-home presentation? This truly is the way that Jim and I built our business. This is how we went from starting our business to EC in 9 months. We did it by doing one-on-one presentations. You could rely on the local weekly business meeting, but how often does that happen? That happens once a week. If you can begin to show some people the business throughout the week, you will get this presentation out there much more often. A one-on-one presentation takes about a half an hour. It shouldn't take hours and hours to do. If you're going to meet with somebody in person for a one-on-one presentation, you want to do this only if they're close. Don't go do a one-on-one presentation with somebody if they live an hour away from you, because you have to drive an hour to get there, take a half hour to do the presentation, and then drive an hour home. You have like 2.5, 3 hours tied up in the presentation. And as good as the presentation might be, that person is probably going to say, yeah, this is a great idea, but in the back of their mind, they're thinking, I don't have time to do this. That is not the response you want. You want them to say, hey, I can do this. So when you do a one-on-one presentation, all you really are going to do is sit with them and play a video. You're going to relate to them a little bit in the beginning. You're going to play the video, and then you're going to call someone else to answer questions. And when you keep it that simple, they're going to realize, I can do this and I can do this tonight. The videos that we like to use for a one-on-one presentation are not the videos you get when you start your business, not your website videos. We think there's some other videos out there that are a little more fine-tuned and that don't have as much of a salesman-y type pitch to them. If you go to this website, and all of you should have gotten information about this website, ambitlifestyle.com, that's AMBITLIFESTYLE, ambitlifestyle.com. Right on that landing page, you will see the videos there. There's a 5-minute video presentation and a 14-minute video presentation. We use that 14-minute video presentation all the time. That video presentation can be downloaded to your desktop, and I'm not going to go over how to do it right now, but just check with your sponsor, to make sure you do download it. Then you always have it. Even if you get to a place where there's not internet, you can bring up that video presentation on your phone, on your laptop, on your notebook, and you can play the presentation so people can take a look at it. So we use that video presentation. The other video presentation that we like the best is the Energy Gold Rush video presentation. To get your own Energy Gold Rush presentation that's customized with your name, there's a $10 a month charge for that. So often when we're starting a new consultant out, we don't ask them to do that until they're starting to make some money. But I do want you to be able to look at that, and you can use ours for getting started. But then as you use it more and more, I would encourage you to get your own. We know the consultants that made this video presentation. They're national consultants, and it's a great video presentation. So I'm going to give you a link so you can take a look at what the Energy Gold Rush video presentation is so you can see how it works. This is our own, and again, if you're going to start using it all the time, I encourage you to get yours. But if you put in the address bar, J.K. Mason, that's for Jim and Kim Mason, J.K. Mason dot Energy Gold Rush, you just spell it all out, EnergyGoldrush.com. So that was J.K. Mason dot EnergyGoldrush.com, and then you have to put / presentation. If you put that in your address bar, you'll link right to the presentation site, and you will be able to see what the Energy Gold Rush presentation looks like. Now, if you want to be able to download this presentation to your desktop or to your laptop or to your notebook or your iPad, you're going to have to actually subscribe to it, and they give you the information of how to download it, and then you can have both presentations available. Watch them both, see what one you like the best, and you'll be able to utilize those as a presentation site. We use those video presentations for a one-on-one presentation and for an in-home presentation. And guys, an in-home presentation is the exact same thing as a one-on-one. It's just you're doing it for a group of people. We always do in-home presentations when we get a new consultant started. The best way to learn how to do an in-home presentation, go back to that website, topambitleaders.com, and click on the training tab and scroll to TV and click on Brian TV, and you'll be able to watch a ton of videos there. But the one that is called System 16 is the video that explains how to do an in-home presentation. And then you see your websites listed there as a presentation tool. Once they've taken a look at one of those other two presentations, or they've been to a local meeting, use your websites to reinforce it. And those are your websites there. That's how we present this business, guys. It's not about you. It's not about doing a PowerPoint. It's not about talking to people about it. It's about playing that video and letting them know what we've got our hands on. Your excitement, your enthusiasm, your commitment is going to make all the difference to your success here when you present this video.
Those websites are going to be listed in the chat box there. I want to talk a little bit about the validation part of the business. In other words, how are you going to follow up with them? And this is really important. Don't be the one that tries to convince your prospect or the person that you're interested in working with. Turn it over to someone else and let them ask the important questions. And these are the questions. You want to ask them, did that make sense to you? If you're doing a validation event for someone, did that make sense? What did you like best? In other words, ask affirmative questions. Do not ask if they what they think. It's very important that you don't pose that question, and it's what we always do. We go up to somebody and say, so what do you think? And if they have any negative indication of it, then you've got to cross a barrier that's established, and it's an argumentative barrier. You've got to convince them that they're wrong, and you won't ever do it even if they say it is. So I want you to talk about, as you're doing this, as soon as they start asking questions, you're going to three-way them into 4 or 5 people that have a financial vested interest in you. It's a group text. Are you ready? I'm making a phone call here, and I'm doing a follow-up. You're going to let somebody else handle that. The things about doing a closing call is you're obviously going to set it up in advance. In other words, see who's available so you have it. You're going to edify the people that you're working with and your prospect to the people that are doing the closing call for you. This edification is something that we need to work on as a team. It is empowering. It gives you power. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to edify the people you're working with or the consultant that you're hoping to bring on. When you introduce your new potential consultant to the people you're currently working with, as you as you introduce them, you tell them what they've accomplished both inside and out of the business and why it would be important for them to listen to the person you're doing it. Call them a business partner, obviously, or call them this is a friend of mine who's been very successful in the business. I wanted you to meet my friend Dennis Brown. He's obviously been successful in other business ventures, and we're very fortunate to be working with him. And then edify the prospect. This is my friend Bob. Bob's been a business owner his whole life. We've always talked about business ideas, and then let them know what the concerns are of the prospect so that Dennis or whoever the upline is that you're working with knows how to handle the objections or the questions.
You want to make sure when you do this closing call, guys, all this is a way to further validate our program and our system. Once you've shown that video, as they begin to ask questions, you're going to bring on somebody who's had more success in this business to help answer their questions. Once you've done the introductions between the two, mute your phone and just let the leader, let the person you've brought on talk about the credibility of the company, the timing, the great team we've had. This person will be the one who actually guides your potential prospect into making a decision to join your business. This validation call helps your new person see, I can do this. There is a whole team out there that's going to support me in this business. They're going to engage your prospect. They're going to find out what they liked best, what else they liked best, and they're going to get those informative questions so that this person is ready to join you. Don't interrupt the person who's on the call. Only do the three-way call if the person has actually looked at the business. If somebody won't watch the video, then there's really not a need for the three-way call because that puts the person who's doing the three-way call in the spot of trying to explain the business, and we all know that that's not duplicatable. If that happens, just shoot a little text to who you've got lined up to do this call, what happened, and it's really not needed. The three-way call is a vital step. Again, if you go to the website, ambitlifestyle.com, and you go over to the tab that says Team, then there's a section called Audio Clips. Every single thing we've talked about today you can listen to. There is an audio clip there on the invitation. You'll hear that again. There's an audio clip there on the presentation, and there's an audio clip there on the three-way call. Every time we start a new consultant, we give them that assignment, that homework of listening to those calls and then watching their Power Zone Ambit University and going to top Ambit leaders. Our main goal with getting a new consultant started is to show them the ways to gather their customer points by teaching them how to show the business. Once you've shown the business, if somebody does not want to join you in business, that's when you're going to gather them as a customer. The only person you might actually just go out and gather as a customer might be your own mother, your own father, if they're not entrepreneurial and you know they won't want to join you in business, or your grandmother. And you're just going to ask them a favor. It won't cost them anything. It won't inconvenience them in any way. And it'd be doing them a great favor, and they actually will save a little bit of money. Once you get them to agree to do you a favor, you just get their light bill, and you show them how they can save money and all of the great benefits that Ambit has. You only do that in gathering customers for your own grandparents, elderly aunts, elderly uncles. Everybody else gets a chance to see the business. Once you've done that, guys, and you've got new consultants, all of you are new consultants, the best thing you can do to be focused here is just plug into our system. Go to those weekly business presentations. If there is a training within an hour or so from you, and these happen all the time throughout the year, go to them. Log on to the conference calls. If you go to the first 10 steps on ambitlifestyle.com and scroll down, you're going to get the phone numbers and the PIN numbers for all the conference calls that happened every week. You want to plug into those as often as you can. Those are the things that keep you in the know of what's going on. Make sure your new consultants go to Ambit University and Power Zone and go to topambitleaders.com and watch the training videos there. And then we have two main events in Ambit. We just finished simulcast, and that is an extraordinary event, but the main event of the whole thing that we have in Ambit is called Ambition. And I know a lot of you are new and you're not quite aware of what that is, but it happens once a year. About 20,000 consultants all get together in Dallas, Texas, and this is where you'll learn just how big this business is. You definitely want to bring as many people as you can to Ambition. If you're new and this is the first time you've heard this, I want you to get back with your sponsor's sponsor, and make sure they share with you what Ambition is. And then just stay in contact with your new consultant. Don't just sign them up and leave them. Let them know that we've got a system here. But remember, use this system to get your new consultant started. Don't you be the tool. Don't you be the one who wants to get it all out there. Use the system, guys. Take this information, share it, plug in tight to the person who got you started, and go out there and change your life.